Welcome to Dealing with the Devils, and that was a heck of a basketball game. I started preparing myself for presenting this off the Blue Devils' first loss, and I was too soon, JD.
I'm with you. Oh my, oh my, oh my. That was about as much fun as I've had eating Thanksgiving dinner.
I agree with you. That was the most fun. Even though the Michigan State game was amazing, Grayson Allen's performance was outstanding, this game was more fun just from the fact that they came back from the 16-point deficit in the second half.
Our notes were already written for how they lost their first game of the season and what could they do differently, and yet they came back. And Grayson, even though he didn't score, had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, he did. He was really phenomenal bringing them back into the game, getting that score tied up, closing that gap from 16 down to 0, and he did it in a way that, was what he struggled with last season, in the sense that he really struggled with ball handling last season and getting guys into the right spots, but that's exactly what he did well in this game to get them back into the ball game.
So let's go through the starting five.
All right, so gotta start off with the man, the myth, the legend, Marvin Bagley the third.
This could be even more than one and done. He might leave after the first 10 games.
Yeah, maybe he'll just say, that's it, I'm done after the first semester. There's no need for me to play anymore. Based on the way he's playing, I know you're joking, but it wouldn't be the most unreasonable thing I've heard of. 33 and 15 tonight, and he did it in a fashion where they needed every point that he scored. And 8 of 11 from the free throw line, as JD points out here, was fantastic, especially since at one point before he hit 6 in a row tonight, he was 18 of 36 from the free throw line this season. So that obviously boosted that average.
When you think about it, from the free throw line, which I think is going to be the problem going down the stretch in tight games, and they shot as a team 62% from the free throw line, Bagley 8 for 11, Gary Trent 7 for 7.
And before we get into Trent, because that's the next guy I want to go to, just a little anecdote here. This game in the overtime period, and I didn't want to say it during the game because I didn't want to jinx us, was that it reminded me a lot of the Duke-Syracuse game 4 years back when they had Jabari Parker, and he got fouled out in overtime, and the Blue Devils were on the opposite end, where they got sized out, and Jeremy Grant kept dunking for Syracuse in that game in the overtime period, and Syracuse won, even though the Blue Devils were able to hit some three-pointers. This was the opposite case, where the Blue Devils' size gave them the victory in OT.
That was the beginning of table time. That was the beginning of getting up on the table, 2 hands up there, screaming. This was that kind of game. I'm still excited.
All right, so Gary Trent Jr., since no one knows what you're talking about, JD, Gary Trent Jr., he's been very cold from the three-point line since the first 2 games of the season, but he's been able to score his points and just make it ugly. And he did that in a fantastic way tonight, finishing with 17 points, and as JD pointed out, 7 of 7 from the free throw line, but also 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and he had a great defensive series at around the 4-minute mark in the second half, which really enabled the Blue Devils to stay in the game and end up forcing the game into OT.
Let's move over to Trey Duval, because there is the guy that I thought we would be the glue for the team and that Allen would be able to play well off of the wing, and yet there is nobody that's going to get a talking to more than Trey Duval tonight by Coach K. When you go 6 and 6, 6 assists and 6 turnovers, there's going to be some words between the coach and Trey.
Not only that, but Trey also struggled with his shot selection tonight. Took a couple of bad three-pointers that the coaches weren't pleased with. Finished 2 of 9 from the field. And, this was obviously not his best performance. As a Blue Devil, I expect him to come back Sunday after talking to the staff a bit and be much better. Lastly, to round out the starting 5, Wendell Carter Jr., I like to say he came into this game with 5 minutes left to go in the second half, and he just became a force from that point on. He finished with 14 and 11.
A double-double.
Monster performance, but most of it was near the end of the game. When he gets rolling, he really tends to put up his numbers in bunches.
Look at those numbers. 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. I mean, that is really a great game for a big guy. when he's also putting up a double-double.
All right, and before we transition into the bench, I want to start off a new segment here. I'm going to give out my 3 stars from the other team. So for Texas, you have their number 3 star was Mohamed Bamba. The length that he gave, the amount of difficulty he gave to the Duke bigs was really a problem.
His block on Bagley was like a 7-footer going after a 6'1" guy.
Yeah, as the announcer said, that's probably never happened to Bagley in his life. The second star for Texas was clearly Kerwin Roach. I know you may argue with me over the number 1 guy, but Roach, obviously the dunk he had in Delorier, we like to forget about, but Delorier got a nice block at the end of the game. He had a number of dunks that were just really earth-shattering. He was high up there, but also his defense against Grayson Allen shouldn't be understated. He did a nice job shadowing him across the court. And the number 1 star for Texas was Dylan Ostakowski, whoever you say his name. He was fantastic. A big guy in the paint, really gave the Blue Devils a lot of trouble, but it was his passing that I think really made a difference for Texas and made this into such a difficult basketball game for the Dukies.
The big guy really showed that he has a versatile game there between passing, shooting, looking. The guy moves on the court well. He sees the whole court.
Yep, absolutely. He had like 3 or 4 dunks as well to go along with those 5 assists. Wrapping this up here with the Blue Devil bench. Not a huge performance from the bench tonight, and not something that should be surprising. As these games get tighter, Coach K likes to shorten it up, and he sure did in the second half. But who shined tonight off the bench, JD? Who is the number 1 guy for the Blue Devils?
It's a tough call because there really wasn't a lot of minutes for them off the bench. I mean,
I would disagree. O'Connell played a ton of minutes. I was trying to set you up. You missed it.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
For the instant, Energizer run, the Energizer rabbit.
Bunny.
For those
it's the Energizer bunny.
That's
JD.
for the old guys out there.
Okay. Anyways, I tried to set you up. You ruined this. So
you gave me the pass. I looked the other way.
You turned it over. That's not on me. So O'Connell, while he didn't score the ball, I thought he did a tremendous job getting the ball, distributing it, and as well as just making plays off the ball all night. He did a great job just fitting in, doing his job, filling his role for the Blue Devils. Besides that, off the bench, Goldwire didn't play really much at all. Bolden did. He had a couple of moments that were okay in the first half. He had a bad Bolden foul as well. Delorier, we all know about what happened to him tonight, and I'm sure he'll be much better on Sunday. So JD, any predictions for this game on Sunday? We could have Gonzaga. We could have Florida.
The problem will be, that if we come out flat again, and now you got to wonder, is the 2-3 the better thing with a bunch of freshmen, or the aggressive man-to-man? And Coach K is going to have to think long and hard about which way it's going to go. I think if it's Florida, it's a really tight game. If it's Gonzaga, I like our chances a little better.
Yeah, Florida they have come out really strong this season. Gonzaga, it's always tough to tell about those guys. But, I think the Blue Devils, they're going to need Grayson Allen to shoot the ball better, along with Gary Trent from the outside. But as you said to me, JD, before this game, it's a matter of time before they dig a hole that's just too deep.
I think that could be the problem, but you know what? It showed a lot of character tonight coming back.
It absolutely did.
With Grayson on the bench, they still came back and won the game. So, I'm looking forward to one more really nice Thanksgiving treat here on Sunday. I'm JD. I'm going back inside to rewatch some of the highlights. That's Dealing with the Devils.